late as hell. My bad. My bad. A little bit late. You feel me? I was finishing up my last client. Y'all see the cape. You feel me? Y'all see the cape. The Lamar Jackson jumper. You dig? Representing. Representing the kids love it. You know what I mean? The kids love it. You know what I mean? The kids love it. But I got a million capes. You feel me? I got a million capes. But I love when people from out of town sit in my chair. I love putting the Lamar Jackson on them. You heard me? I love putting the Lamar Jackson on them. You dig? Uh, so I try to use a fresh cape for each client. What's going on, Tika Ricardo? I try to use a fresh cape for each client. You dig? Um, I don't like using the same cape on different people, right? So now for a family, right? If it's like a family of three come get their hair cut, I be like they live in the same house, they drove in the same car. It's a father, his two sons. Save on the laundry bill. Most of the time, I use the same cape for people in the same family. You dig what I'm saying? Um, so that's the Lamar Jackson. You dig? Uh, oh, for all y'all, you dig what I'm saying, who be hating on my man, tell your boy Cole. You feel me? Tell your boy Cole got the Kobe cape. Keep the Kobe cape. You dig what I'm saying? I just had so many varieties of cakes, and that be for all of them LeBron fans. I make sure I put the Kobe cape on them. You dig what I'm saying? Wayne gonna play. You did. Other novelty capes I got a lot of novelty capes. You did. Oh, this one, you know, for my hip hop heads. This one for my hip hop heads. You dig? Who we got on there? We got Biggie. We got Snoop, Eminem, Q, Pop. You feel me? Easy E down there at the corner. Y'all said we want Easy. I thought I had Easy E down there. Oh, that's Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre, Easy. That was Easy. Feel me? Yeah, 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 yeah. Novelty Jones. But what's going on with y'all, man? Welcome to another episode of Fading Facts, brought to you by the Barbershop, the Carnivorous Podcast, powered by Tri Media, and we once again are back in the building. So I hope everybody had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Spent time with your family. You did. Had your cookout. Boom. Or whatever y'all chose to do. I went to McDonald's for lunch, Tika. My bad. You know what I mean? They got the frozen Coke that I'm hooked on. I don't even like Coke. I'm a Pepsi guy. But the frozen Coke at McDonald's, the frozen Coca-Cola, or at the movie theater, the frozen Coke, crazy. Okay, what's for lunch though, Tika? What's for lunch? Everybody slow to get on. Yo, my daughter, Mika, what up? Mika, where you been at? Oh, my fucking daughter is just. Yo, if y'all got kids, man, I'm gonna let y'all know. Kids are, that's all they do once they get a certain age is just request money. That's all they do. The kids, that's all they do is request money. Apple Pay, $40, $30, $50. Like, yo, this all week. They think money grow on trees. They shouldn't have made it so easy to have to be able to send money, man. It's because kids, man, they run that shit in the hole. Facts. Facts. But look, man, I hope everybody enjoyed their Memorial Day weekend. I wanted to do a show. Uh, I wanted to do a show yesterday, but I wasn't able to. So there's a couple shows I want to do today if I can get to them. I just had a break. I just had a break. I just had a break. Because everybody got their hair cut for the goddamn holiday. So I had a break from lunch into 3 o'clock. And I said, dang, like I said, if I had these little breaks, instead of going home, I bring my laptop, I could shoot right in the shop. You dig what I'm saying? In between my breaks. So, you know. So I've seen an interesting video yesterday about Memorial Day and the origin of Memorial Day. And it was a channel that I was watching called uh is it One Mic History. It came up on my feed. I let me send this little girl some money. Hold on. This shit is crazy. Somebody just took some money out of my account. Man, this mess is all over the place. I sent it. God damn it. Um, oh, anyhow, yeah. So okay, good. All right, you got it. Leave me alone. Um, so let's go to the YouTube and let's check this out real quick. Let's sign into the YouTube. My email, y'all, is shaycuts at gmail.com. If anybody want to email me. Boom. What is it called? Let's look up. Which one was it? It was, here you go. Yeah, that was One Mic. All right, y'all, let's check this out. Let's go.
Imagine a hidden chapter in history, one where the first Memorial Day is not born from official decrees.
Hold on. Y'all can't hear that, can y'all?
Imagine a hidden chapter in history, one where the first Memorial Day is not born from official decrees, but from the heart of freedmen in a war-torn city. This tale, lost to the history books and buried beneath the soil of Charleston, South Carolina. Join me as we talk about the forgotten story of the first Memorial Day. And if you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at OneMicHistory.com. Also, so you can support the YouTube channel. And I have a new channel, One Mic 2. Please subscribe. But without further ado, let's get started. Memorial Day's origins are shrouded in mystery and intrigue. Numerous towns across the United States vie for the honor of being recognized as its birthplace. Among those, Waterloo, New York, or Carbondale, Illinois stand out, yet historians believed that the first continuous commemoration might be in Columbus, Mississippi, where in April of 1866, a group of compassionate women took it upon themselves to decorate the graves of fallen soldiers, turning their grief into a solemn tradition. However, a lesser known yet equally compelling tale comes from freedmen in Charleston, South Carolina. This hidden chapter came to light thanks to David Blight, a professor of American history at Yale University. On a fateful day in 1996, while digging through boxes at Harvard's Halton Library, he stumbled upon a treasure, a handwritten account of the first Decoration Day in 1865. Accompanying this narrative was a clipping from a New York Tribune labeled First Decoration Day. So, in the spring of 1865, the Civil War had just ended. The city of Charleston laid in ruins, a somber backdrop against a slow march towards freedom. The war had left many scars, but none more profound than the makeshift prison at Washington's Racecourse and Jockey Club, a once lavish playground for the Southern elite, was now a stark reminder of cruelty and captivity. Here, in the open-air field of the racetrack, more than 260 Union soldiers perished, subjugated to disease and exposure, their bodies hastily buried into a mass grave. Once Confederate forces evacuated, leaving behind the battered city, an extraordinary event unfolded, initiated by the newly freed African Americans. These men and women who had just endured the shackles of enslavement stepped forward to honor those who laid unremembered in the makeshift graves, and as their first act of liberty was not one of celebration for themselves, but one of commemoration for the fallen. With meticulous care, they exhumed the mass graves, and over 10 days, they reburied each soldier, transforming the site into a dignified resting place. They erected a towering whitewashed fence around the newly sanctified ground, declaring it martyrs of the racecourse. This act was not just about giving the soldiers a proper burial, but it was a profound statement of humanity and grace from those who had long been denied it. And then, in April 1st, 1865, what happened next was truly unprecedented. What can only be described as a collective moment of catharsis. Approximately 10,000 people, mostly black freedmen in Charleston, South Carolina, gathered at the racecourse. The day commemorates with a parade of 3,000 black school children who marched holding roses and singing John Brown's Body. They, followed by scores of adults from Aid Society for free black men and women. But these scenes were not about a somber mourning, but a peaceful celebration and a tribute to the spirit of the fallen and the declaration of a new beginning. Throughout the day, black pastors delivered moving sermons, led spiritual hymns, filled the air of hope and renewal, and families gathered for picnics under the warm spring air, sharing stories and dreams for the future. Patriotic songs echoed throughout the day, and as the afternoon wore on, black and white Union regiments marched around the grave sites in a powerful display of unity. The graves themselves were transformed with a tapestry of flowers filled with sweet scents mingled with the spring breeze, and the sight was said to have brought a tear of joy to many an eye. It was a heartful tribute, a moment of pure human connection from the depths of sorrow and strife. For many years afterwards, the story remained hidden, cloaked in the silence of the white community of Charleston. It briefly resurfaced in a forgotten correspondence in a 1916 letter from the United Daughters of the Confederacy in New Orleans, seeking information about a large parade of freedmen on a horse track at the end of the war. The reply from the Charleston chapter was regretful and evasive, stating that I regret I am unable to gather any official information in response to this. Decades later, Union General John A. Logan led a veterans group called for a National Day of Remembrance for Fallen Soldiers, which was officially marked as Memorial Day, March 30th, 1868. Celebrations began taking place at Arlington Cemetery, and with each passing year, the origins of the day in Charleston grew dimmer and faded from the collective memory of the nation. Fast forward to the 20th century, when the once sacred site of the old racetrack was replaced with urban development, and the original graves were relocated to Beaufort's National Cemetery. Thus, the true origins of Memorial Day were overshadowed by a more formal national observance. However, the story doesn't end there. Many years later, at the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History, historian David Blight shared a forgotten history of the first Memorial Day. After his presentation, an older Black woman approached him, her voice tinged with curiosity and awe. She recounted her grandfather had told her stories of a parade led by freedmen on an old racetrack, stories that she always wondered if they were actually a part of family legend or something more substantial. She asked Blight, "You mean those stories are true?" Visibly moved, Blight confirmation, renewed interest, and validation to the legacy preserved through family tales but lost to the public knowledge. And as we celebrate Memorial Day each year, it serves as a reminder, not just for those who died in past wars, but also as a strength and resilience to who, despite being oppressed, have contributed profoundly to our shared history. Thank you. I'm your host, Country Boy. This has been One Mic History. And this is the story of the first Memorial Day. If you enjoy stories like this, you can find more stories like this at onemichistory.com. Also, I have a new channel, One Mic 2. You can get audio-only episodes there. And I would like to thank all of my Patreon subscribers and my members. I love you all, and without you, none of this could be possible. Peace.
Oh, my bad. I was on mute. Listen, very interesting, right? Very interesting, right? So in that short documentary, they listed African Americans as being the first to celebrate Memorial Day, right? And all of the subsequent Memorial Day celebrations, which is which is something that we need to uh have adherence to, far as wise African Americans, or FBAs or whatever you decide to call yourself, um, Black people. We need to take a special sanctimony in our commemoration of Memorial Day. And the reason why is because Memorial Day is acknowledging the toll and the loss in the fight for freedom, right? It is, or was originally, a celebration of the toll of life that was lost during the Civil War, right? And the Civil War is the main struggle, right, or physical struggle that took place to free us from bondage, from slavery. Um, and we see that African Americans were the first to acknowledge a Memorial Day celebration because we felt indebted to the Black and white soldiers that lost their lives, right? And putting down the Jim Crow, putting down the antebellum Southern contingency, I'll say. So, and doing a brief research, because like anybody else, I just celebrate holidays without even thinking about why we're celebrating them. For the most part, if we're having cookouts and we're getting days off of work, or anything like that. Anytime black people we can get together and celebrate with family, we just take advantage of that. But I never thought about what Memorial Day actually was. I thought it was like another Veterans Day, right? But then when you go into the history of it, it's originally for the sacrifice of life that the soldiers of the Civil War um, gave up, right? That they put their lives on the line, or their lives was used as barter in the wage and the wager against slavery, right? And the fact that no matter what revisionist people like to come about and say, well, the Civil War wasn't over slavery and America ain't never fight. I'm not listening to none of y'all, right? I'm not listening to none of y'all with y'all revisionist history. From when I went to school, from elementary school as a little kid, all the way up until I graduated from high school, we were taught that that the Civil War was fought because of slavery, right? Now, there might be other issues involved in it, right? Not saying that slavery was the only issue. You dig what I'm saying? But it was a major issue. Hold on. It was a major issue in the Civil War, for the Civil War, right? And even if it wasn't the main issue, right? What was meted out because of the Civil War was a positive benefit to the enslaved. Slavery was abolished because of the Civil War. So if you feel as though that the Civil War wasn't fought because of slavery, the byproduct of the Civil War was the abolishment of slavery. So either way you have it, right? Either way you have it, the Civil War contributed to the abolishment of slavery, right? So in that vein, the African Americans in 1865 and 1866, the first ones to commemorate Memorial Day, they gave commemorants, right, for the soldiers that lost their lives, right, and that subsequently gave them their freedom. Right? So, I learned that yesterday, right? See, I'm an honest gent, right? I don't go around, uh, claiming to know all these things. Remember, y'all see me right now. I am a barber, right? Plain and simple. I am a barber. You see that down about what it say? Chef the barber. I'm in the barber shop right now on my lunch break. I am not a rogue scholar. I don't claim to know none of these damn things, right? What I research, I come and give back. That's it. What's going on, Mongo? What's up, Psycho? Right? So, Memorial Day from now on in my life will be taken a little bit more sacredly, because the initial people to celebrate a Memorial Day service was celebrating it in commemorance of the soldiers that lost their lives in a fight uh, that eventually gave them their freedom. I gotta plug my laptop up, y'all. Hold on. We need some power. We need some power in the laptop. We need some power in the laptop. Laptop almost died on us in the middle of the show, y'all. Let's switch that over to power. Boom. There we go. We got power. Yeah. That Ant-Man shit is nuts, right? Y'all see I had to argue with them guys, man. Goddamn Logic and Brass. Brass jumped off that boat a little quicker than my guy Logic, right? But it's crazy, right? We can get into that though, y'all. We can get into that. Definitely wanted to bring this Memorial Day celebration. So let's end this Memorial Day celebration on my stance that Memorial Day has moved up and holidays for me on my list of holidays. Um, because I always wondered why there was no Civil War celebration still being celebrated and being as though the Civil War was. And I didn't do shows on the Civil War. I have a my uncle was a big Civil War buff, right? He would take us to Williamsburg, Virginia, and Gettysburg, right? Williamsburg, Gettysburg, where major battles were fought, where they have all of the, you know, the battlefields and stuff still there. My Uncle Harold, rest in peace, Uncle Harold. He was like a grandfather to me, honestly. Um, he was an older uncle, right? More like a grandfather, you know. If I didn't know any of my grandfathers, because they all passed away before I was born. So my Uncle Harold was like a grandfather to me. He was probably around 20 years older than my mother. So he was like a father figure for my mother anyway. And he took to me and my sister like grandkids, right? And he was into the, Civil War and history and all of that, right? So he used to take us to Williamsburg, Gettysburg. He also took us to Harper's Ferry, right? Harper's Ferry is in Virginia, and that's where John Brown raided the munitions in Harper's Ferry, Virginia, right? And the Battle of John Brown took place right there in Harper's Ferry, Virginia. Harper's Ferry, Virginia is probably around 40 minutes in car from Baltimore City, Baltimore, Maryland, right? So right here in this whole little corridor where um, I live in the north, the northern most southern city, right? I'm in the northernmost southern city, and on the East Coast, I am in the southernmost uh, northern city. So I'm in the heart on the Mason-Dixon line, right? Which is Baltimore. So Baltimore was both things during the antebellum South. It was both northern and southern, right? It was both uh, slavery and free. It was crazy, right? Matter of fact, during the Civil War, half of Baltimore was Confederate and half of Baltimore was Union, right? Which explains our odd position, right? We're too northern to be recognized by the South, and we're too southern to be recognized by the North, right? So we are a unique interplay. Any family that live down south, when they come to Baltimore, they're saying they're going up north, right? They consider us the North. Any family that live in New Jersey and New York, when they come to Baltimore, they say they going down south, and they in the South. So it's a play, depending on where you come from, right? Um, the people in the South don't recognize us as Southern, and the people in the North don't recognize us as Northern. And we are on the belt line of Dixie, the Mason-Dixon line, right? So we will be, I'm going to use a conscious community word, we will be, if Unc is listening, it's one of your words, Unc, confluence. We are the area of confluence, right? We are north of Washington, D.C., all right? We are north of D.C., all right? So D.C. was given its district from equal land from Virginia and Maryland. So Maryland gave a portion of land, and Virginia gave equal portions of land, and that's how the District of Columbia, which is DC, was created, right? But the city that lived to the north of that, right, coming out of the Chesapeake Bay, right, was Baltimore, right? Baltimore, and actually Baltimore actually borders York, Pennsylvania. So right outside of York, Pennsylvania lies Baltimore City, right? Philadelphia is a hop, skip, and a jump from Baltimore, as well as Richmond, Virginia. Now, think about that. Philadelphia was the one of the first capitals of the United States, right? Of the new United States, the new fledgling country that was created, right? In the 1700s. Uh, First, one of its first capitals was Philadelphia. Baltimore lies right south of Philadelphia. The capital of the Confederacy was actually at one time Richmond, Virginia. Baltimore lies to the north of Richmond, Virginia, right? Um, Strategic, Washington, D.C., Richmond, Virginia. Uh, well, what else do you have? Notables, right? And it's notables. In order to take D.C., the British first had to take Baltimore. All right. So some of the major battles that was fought in the Revolution War, right, was fought here in Baltimore. Matter of fact, the Star Spangled Banner was penned here in Baltimore Harbor, right? In Baltimore Harbor. I'm going to do a video where I'm going to take my camera and I'm going to show y'all where Francis Scott Key actually, what's going on, Gaisha? Where Francis Scott Key actually penned the Star Spangled Banner. All right. You had black soldiers, right? You had black soldiers that fought on the side of the British here in Baltimore, right? They were promised their freedom. They were redcoats. They actually captured Francis Scott Key and gave him to the British, right? And Francis Scott Key was put on one of the ships, right? Because he was an officer. What else? The burning of the White House, right? If you look into the history, there were black soldiers who actually stormed Washington, D.C. They don't like to tell you about this, right? But a lot of those soldiers black soldiers come right out of Baltimore. So yes, there you go, Psycho. The War of 1812, right? The British came back with a vengeance, right? In order to take D.C., they had to go through Baltimore, right? Because Baltimore is a major city that had a heavy naval presence. Right outside of Baltimore, we have Annapolis, Maryland, right? And Annapolis is where the seat of our naval intelligence lies. Annapolis, Maryland, right? Right on the water, right? It is a suburb of Baltimore. It actually is its own city now. Okay. Well, the British had to come into Baltimore and they had to take Baltimore, right? We have a fort here in Baltimore called Fort McHenry, right? That sits in downtown Baltimore, right? And it overlooks the harbor, the Baltimore harbor, right? And it protects the harbor. So anybody coming into the Chesapeake to try to go down and get into the Potomac and come up the Potomac to attack Washington, D.C. by water, right, has to actually come through Baltimore. And Baltimore stood up, right, at Fort McHenry. We actually have the museums, and as a kid living in Baltimore City, you go to all of those museums in school, right? When you learn about the War of Independence and you know what I mean, all of that, right? You actually go to these museums, right? And you know, we have Federal Hill, right? On Federal Hill, we still have the original cannons, uh, right? On Federal Hill, they are encased, right? Iron encased, right? They don't fire no more, but they are sitting as trophies and they are lined up on Federal Hill, right? The same way that they was during the War of 1812 when we bombed the ships in the harbor, when Baltimore bombed the ships in the harbor and fought off the British. So they wasn't able to get into the Potomac and go up the Potomac and take Washington, D.C. So if Baltimore wouldn't have held off the Navy at Fort McHenry, uh, we probably would have lost DC, because the troops that was on the ground actually raided DC. Um, but the Navy didn't get there to help, right? So they eventually lost, as they didn't have the artillery to hold off um, the U.S. Marines. But if those ships would have been able to get up the Potomac, if they would have got through Baltimore, our country might have looked a little different nowadays, right? Brief history. So anyway, um, so some of the first troops to die in the Civil War actually died in Baltimore City on a street called Lombard Street, right? We still have the plaques, right, on the sidewalk, right? So I'm talking of key battles, right here in Baltimore City, which is not doing so good nowadays, um, as being a major eastern city on the eastern seaboard because of different things. Um, but it was key in the development of this country that we love. So, Memorial Day. Memorial Day will definitely be celebrated by me with a little bit more reverence and fervor, right? Because of my newfound understanding that blacks were some of the first to commemorate Memorial Day for the toll of life given by the soldiers um, who lost their lives during the Civil War. And in 1866, the first Memorial Day was, held and, by black people in South Carolina in remembrance. Or was it North Carolina? I'm sorry. Yep. So, like I said, even if y'all don't, even if y'all want to argue over the Civil War, what we're not going to argue over is that the Civil War is the reason why we have the abolition or the abolishment of slavery in the United States. Now, that's not to say that slavery wasn't going to come to an end some other type of way. I do believe that slavery was on its last leg, right? But the country didn't know how to end it, right? They didn't know how to end it. Some people said let it die a natural death, but that could have took decades into the 1900s, right? Into the 20th century for it to die completely a natural death. Because even after the 13th and 14th Amendment, right, we still had vestiges of slavery still lingering, right? So imagine if the Civil War wouldn't have happened and Frederick Douglass and them, right? Give props to Frederick Douglass and them that, pressured Lincoln and the Union officers to enlist black troops. And, because the black troops said, man, listen, we'll do it, right? Because a lot of white soldiers felt as though, listen, we're down here to preserve the Union, right? We ain't down here to lose our lives for no slaves. So guess what black people said? Black people said, whatever your reason is, right, for fighting the war, fine. Give us the guns. Let us fight for our own freedom. Let us help put down the Confederacy, right? So black people enlisted in the military for the sole purpose to end slavery. So it doesn't matter what white people felt as though the war was for. Black people early on felt as though this was a war that could liberate them. And they took up arms. So black people believed that the Civil War was about the abolishment of slavery for them. And they fought and they lost their lives for it. Yes, Lincoln was reluctant into making it about the abolition or the abolishment of slavery. But Frederick Douglass and them wasn't. The first black regiments to see active war, they wasn't. They put their lives on the line for it. They knew what they were fighting for. Give me the gun, right? Wow, that's dope, Fetty. That's dope. Fetty, we can do a show on that, bro. See, that's the type of shit I'm talking about. That's dope. That's dope, Fetty. Man, see that? Richmond stand up. Listen, Richmond might be a small city now. People don't know that Richmond was major. People don't know what happened to the South, right? Richmond was burnt to the ground. Richmond never reclaimed its original glory. Richmond was on par with Philadelphia. The Union burnt Richmond to the ground and it never regained its former glory. Richmond was major, right? Other southern cities, it was cities that were huge, major cities that never regained its opulence, right? Its splendor, its grandeur, because the wars were fought in those cities. We have Richmond burnt to the ground. We have man, um, man, I used to know a whole bunch of those cities down there. Uh, God damn, the on the Mississippi. Oh man, it's cities you wouldn't even think of now that were huge in major cities that would have been able to compete with in the South, that would have been able to compete with the likes of Philadelphia and New York if they would have, but they were actually burnt to the ground, right? Those deep southern cities still have northern hostility. They call it northern hostility, and they have southern resentment, right? Because they felt as though they lost their way of life and the grandeur of their sweet Dixie, um, the Union soldiers exacted punishment on major southern cities for the war, right? Yeah, that's a fact. Um, Psycho. So the South never regained its stature, right? The South never, those cities never was able to uh, rise up, rise back up from the ashes that the Northern aggression exacted on them, right? What's going on, Corey? Right? Corey is from Illinois. I think Abraham Lincoln was from Illinois, if I'm not mistaken. I think Abraham Lincoln was from Illinois. Mm. Yeah, so look, boom. You know what I mean? Everybody. Oh, he was from. I'm in Indiana. Corey from Indiana. I don't know why I got the eyes mixed up. My bad, Corey. I said you was from Illinois. You from Indiana. I think Abraham Lincoln was from Illinois. We're gonna find somebody who was from Indiana that had a lot to do with uh major moments in American history. I'm sure. I'm sure we can find somebody, probably a senator or something that was major in one of these conflicts. More than likely came from the great state of Indiana. We'll look through. Indiana, Illinois, same shit. That's what I always thought. You know what I'm saying? I always thought it, right? Um, yeah, y'all, but definitely, man. Listen, Memorial Day is dope now, man. Memorial Day is dope. I'm fucking with it, right? Um, as black people, as FBAs, right? You know, American holidays are our holidays also. We just need to find ourselves in it, right? As American, yes, but we need to see what our people were doing. Say Indiana don't feel like a state. We need to find out what our people were doing uh, during these times also. I'm running out of frozen Coke, y'all. Right? But definitely, y'all, dope, dope, right? Um, so man, I've been reading a book that's been agitating me lately, y'all. Hold on, let me switch the screen. I've been reading a book that's been agitating me lately, right? This book was written by a sociologist, a black sociologist, back in 1956, right? He was actually the dean of Howard University, prestigious black college, right? Matter of fact, this guy was the first black dean of Howard University. Ain't that crazy? A historical black college, right? One of the most premier historical black colleges. First dean, black dean, got his tenure in the mid 1950s. That's crazy. So up until then, Howard was ran, HBCU was ran by white folk. Now, I'm not saying anything was wrong with that, but it's peculiar, right? It's an oddity. We can look into that logic. But anyway, this book that this dean wrote, right? And he was a sociologist. He put a lot of the conversations that we've been having, um, it's like in 1950s, we're doing the same things that he complained, which was some of the reasons why we behind. We do the same things in 2025. So almost 70 years later, 70 something years later, right? What he extolled about the shortcomings of black people, right? We still have these same issues. And I find myself participating in those issues, right? Now, this brother was a sociologist. He wrote a book called The Black Bourgeois, right? He wrote a book called The Black Bourgeois. And he talked about the middle class black folk, right? And their culture, their aims. This guy name was E. Franklin Frazier. E. Franklin Frazier, The Black Bourgeois. Now, it's another book, right? It's another book that I had to juxtapose it with, right? Called Our Type People. Shit, I got a 2:30 appointment, y'all. Called Our Type People. God damn it. 2:30. God damn, 2:30, 3 o'clock. I'm gonna have to get a panel up here so I can continue the show because I'm about to have to cut hair. Um, Our type people, let me see. Our kind of people, right? By Lawrence Otis Graham. It's a book by a dude named Lawrence Otis Graham. Man. And he talked about how the elite blacks had a different culture and separated themselves from the regular working class blacks, right? And this guy grew up in this elite black class, right? That went to places like Fisk and Howard, right? Back then, these schools were very prestigious, right? And if you could score even higher than to go to Fisk and Spelman and uh, Morehouse, right? Then you will be able to go to or Howard. Then right over top of that was Harvard and Yale, right? Which was the goal. But nevertheless, right? Lawrence Otis Graham, right? He wrote his book about how you had to be light skinned, right? Preferably green eyes, right? Uppity Negro, you had to come from wealth, right? Um, all of these things, and it talks about the different cities like New York and Philadelphia, Baltimore, Atlanta, and they had these elite blacks that stood over everybody else, right? Oh man. But E. Franklin Frazier in his Black Bourgeois, he dismantled that. He mangled them. You feel me? He showed how that black bourgeois was just all smoke and mirrors. He showed how there was no true gains in trying to be elite because you were only acting or mimicking white affluence. I like how I use that. So he was saying that the black bourgeois wasn't sophisticated at all, that they are just mimicking, right, white affluence. And they use the working class blacks as cannon fodder. Meaning all of the integration and all of those civil rights struggles and stuff. He was basically saying that that was the black bourgeois using the working class black as cannon fodder for them to move up. Man, we could do a whole show on this, man. Because I seen it. You can see it in lawsuits that's levied against the government and corporations. He showed how that is the black bourgeois levying these claims, right? And the only people that benefit from it, where we fight the battles, we put our asses on the line thinking that they're fighting for us, but they're fighting for their upward mobility. We stay the same. I said, damn. I mean, reading these two books together, y'all, like, it is the contrast, man. It's, whoo! Man, listen, them two brothers, man, they put in some work, man. Are you talking about some good reading? You talking about some good reading right there, man. Man, that is end game type reading right there for our kind, right? That is end game, right? That's Marvel Universe type read, man. You want to pull a veil back and see what's actually going on. And people always extol me for, what's up, Donnie? For always going back into history. Well, you can't understand the present if you don't understand the history. And a lot of the things that we're dealing with right now is because we ain't correct historical iniquities. We got the shit wrong. So we're dealing with the same problems in a new age that black people 100 years ago was dealing with. And they already had the solutions to them. We already had the solutions to them. They already then gave us the solutions, right? Booker T. Washington and the boys in them have been giving us solutions. These were the people coming right out of slavery. They seen the issues. They created the schools, right? They created the technical programs. They created the ways to move forward in business, right? To become a part of the economy and not just a cog in the economy, right? Booker T and the boys in them, they figured it out. But that black middle class, that black booth, they derailed. It's something there. It's something there. We need to dig into it, y'all. But I'm just a barber, so I need y'all help. You dig what I'm saying? I need y'all help, but there's something there. You know? But yeah, I'm having problems, right? Because he got this one analysis, right? And he was the dean of Howard, right? So he got a chance to look at this black bourgeois send their children off to school. And he noticed how they was all about their dress code and what they drove. Now, this is in the 40s and the 50s, right? It was all about how their houses looked and the trinkets that they could buy to appear affluent, right? It was the appearance of affluency that he said that the black bourgeois was engaged in, right? That they wanted the Negro to appear as he has came to age to be accepted into white society because they was all about being accepted. JJ 7000, what's up, big homie? The champ is here, right? But yeah, so oh man, like y'all check me out, man. This is a series that we could go into, man. But he talked about how, for me, what hit home is some of the things that we do, even a few of the conversations that we've been having. He talked about how the black students, right? The black bourgeois, what, right? That they were engaged, like, and we took a lot of their stuff on because we sent our children off to school with them. They went to the same barbershops as us, right? So for me, everybody comes into the barbershop, the black barbershop, the black doctor down to the black dude that cut grass, right? Everybody comes into the black barbershop, right? So we took on some of their habits and mannerisms, right? We took on some of their habits and mannerisms, right? And it was a way for them to keep their cool, right? So this black bourgeois wanted to be accepted into white society, But he still didn't want to lose his black connection. So they would exclude the working class blacks from their social clubs, right? So they did to the working class black, right? Or the less affluent black or the dark skin, however you want to put it, right? They did to those people the same thing that white America did to them. But check this out. They still wanted to keep their black cool within that lower class black community. So they would still frequent black barbershops. And in the black barbershops, they would learn how to retain some of the customs and lingo that made them acceptable to the blacks. And they went to Jack and Jill programs and elite things to make them acceptable to the whites. Because eventually, what they wanted to do was cast off all things black. But they needed the blacks, the lower class blacks, as cannon fodder to propel them. So they had to keep a toe in with the lower class blacks to be able to communicate, right? Because the lower class blacks is what was going to do their bidding for them. It is a sick mentality. Listen, man. Back in the late 90s and the early 2000s, before Jesse Jackson became super old and out of his mind, I seen something. Jesse Jackson had sued, and I was watching Fox News back in the early 2000s, real heavy, right? I loved the Bill O'Reilly, the O'Reilly Factor, Hannity and Combs, right? Because they were giving the opposing thought. I wanted to see what white people actually thought. I wanted to see how the other side viewed the issues, right? So I was hooked on, and I was in my early 20s, right? But I will watch, and my baby mother used to look like, bro, what are you watching? You think what I'm saying? Right? She would come down in the basement, right? And I would have on Hannity and Combs and O'Reilly Factor and all that. She said, why are you watching these old racist white men? Right? Crazy, right? So, Jesse Jackson was suing white corporations or American corporations, right? Claiming that they were being racist towards blacks, right? And I noticed something that was happening. He was saying, look, Bush, there's no black distributors of Anheuser-Busch. Y'all racist, right? I'm going to get black people to boycott, right? And I'm going to destroy your public image, right? Because there's no black representation in your company and we buy your products. Right? So then I seen black people getting behind Jesse Jackson and these certain uh, so-called issues that he brought to the table. Then all of a sudden, these issues, these different companies that he would bring up, that shit will go away. You wouldn't hear nothing else about it in the major news, right? But then you will find out, right, that Jesse Jackson's son now has a distribution deal with Anheuser-Busch, or his son-in-law now, has a different business venture going on with Coca-Cola and blase. And it dawned on me, man, he using us as fucking cannon fodder, and he is stepping on our backs to advance him and his family. Has nothing to do with black people at all. So reading E. Franklin Frazier's Black Bourgeois, I said, yo, these people use us as cannon fodder, right? The NAACP and them used us as cannon fodder, right? So they could step up and be accepted or to get further in the American dream, when the rest of us, right, the people that it's supposed to benefit, we still, those gains that are made, we don't partake in it. We don't get nothing out of it. They're elite blacks who get something out of it. Think about this. Me and Brass talk all the time, right? And we talk about how in these black cities and stuff, there's money allocated for certain programs, right? And you say, well, it's money, government money is there, right? We already done fought for this. We got this money. Well, how the people that it's supposed to benefit don't know nothing about this shit? I put up a post about opening a black-owned beauty school in Baltimore City, right? All black people, you know what I mean? And so many people that work in funding and stuff hit me up, man, this money here, it's got money there, boom, 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 boom. And I said, damn, if all of this is available, why the people on the bottom that it's supposed to go to don't know nothing about this? There's this black bourgeois that's siphoning off of these social programs. And you look at these communities and you say, well, why they ain't getting ahead? Because the people in those communities that supposed to get those funds don't get it. That black bourgeois does not live in our community. But he knows the paperwork. He knows by skin color how to access these funds. And most of us don't have the ability to access these funds, right? And the funds were built or were released for our benefit. But that black elite knew that if we put red tape and tied up in intricacy, that unsophisticated black will have a hard time accessing these funds. And me and mine know that white game. We know how to access the funds. We're going to make it so hard to access the funds so black business can get off the ground, the ones that's really in these communities, that really want to participate in business, right? You got to go through, by the time you realize that it's that you want to open up a bit, your credit is already fucked up. You dig what I'm saying? You have so many different issues to get through the red tape that money seems so far off from you. But that black bourgeois, that elite, He has all the tools to access that money, and none of that money is coming back into the black community. These two books, y'all, The Black Bourgeois and Our Kind of People. So funny and shit. But yeah, so check it out. But that's not even the one thing. I kind of seen that a little bit already, right? But it was other things that he said that hit a little bit. All right, I got you, Sosa. I can send them all to you. You feel me? You know I got her. You feel me? PDF King. Pow, pow, pow. Hey, Sosa, listen. I listen to all y'all when y'all talk about what y'all reading, right? I just started reading Guns, Germs, and Steel. Fire. Right? Sosa, you was mentioning that book years ago, right? And I had got it, but I didn't crack it open. Um, yeah, but I'm into it now, man. I'm into it now. I haven't been doing shows, but I've been, you know, catching up on my reading, as y'all can see. Um, yeah, I got the PDF. So I'm gonna get what you laid on. I'm gonna and shoot you them shits, right? And anybody else that want a matter of fact, if hits in brass or DQ or Logic is in here, if y'all can start another panel in the Discord for books, I can start loading that up with PDF because we don't have a book tab in there, I don't think, so everybody can have access to these reading materials. Yeah, shit. But yeah, so oh, let me see. Let me see. So in James, you tripping. You feel me? I might not need to read. I might not need to read. Because every time I start reading, I start fighting with black people. Ain't that amazing, James? How when I start reading, I get to fighting with black people? Is it me? Or is it y'all? Or is it a combination? Because every time black people get to reading, we get to arguing with each other. Ain't that something? And start reading and hey James, look, I start reading and fuck around, figured out that the Egyptians weren't black. Then I had to argue with my man James in there. God damn. Oh man. Um Man, listen. All right, let me so how I'm gonna do this. All right, so I gotta take this power off. So we're gonna go to the iPad, right? And we're gonna go to E. Franklin Frazier Black Bourgeois, right? Cause this kind of fucked with me, y'all. All right, let's go to the iPad, right? On page 207, right, and 208, he says this, right? I know, James, I know why you said it. He says, as a consequence of the prestige of society, many Negro professional men and women take more seriously their recreation than their professions. Read that again. Now, he's talking about the upper class bourgeois, right? Said that shit was all smoke and mirror, right? But from them being able to keep one toe still attached to the black, we started to do the same. We started to try to emulate them, right? So now we're all twisted. Now watch this. Now he's talking about that educated, elite, so-called elite black, right? This high and mighty uppity Negro, right? He says this. Now, tell me if this ain't rub off on us, right? It says, as a consequence of the prestige of society, many Negro professional men and women take more seriously their recreation than their profession. Once the writer heard a Negro doctor who was prominent socially say that he would rather lose a patient than have his favorite baseball team lose a game. What the fuck? This is the elite. See how fanatical he was over sports. He's analyzing that upper class black. You dig what I'm saying? And their leisure and what they put their minds to, right? Now, think about how that then trickled over down into us. We was the working class. We was breaking, working in steel mills and you dig what I'm saying? Working for sanitation and you dig what I'm saying? We was busting ass, right? But look what these uppity folk were able to do, right? He say, as a consequence of prestige of society, many Negro professional men and women take more seriously their recreation than their professions. Once the writer heard a Negro doctor who was prominent socially say that he would rather lose a patient than have his favorite baseball team lose a game. This was an extreme expression of the relative value of professional work and recreation among the black bourgeois. At the same time, it is indicative of the value which many Negro professional men and women, including college professors, place upon sports, right? It say, except when they are talking within the narrow field of their professions. Their conversations are generally limited to sports, baseball, and football, right? They follow religiously the scores of the various teams and the achievements of all the players. For hours, they listen to the radio, accounts of sports, and watch baseball and football games on television. They become learned in the comments of the sports writers. This is in 1955. Does this sound like us right now in 2025? You see what we give our, our mind to, other than working in our profession diligently to become better at that? That's crazy. Yo, last week we talked about Ant-Man and Magic Johnson. Yo, we knew all the stats. We knew, man, this shit he wrote is crazy. He says they follow religiously the scores of various teams. Now, this guy's a sociologist, and he was the dean of Howard. He's looking at the students, right? These uppity students and their parents, right? What they are engaged in. Other than becoming the best in their fields, right? As doctors and stuff, this is what they are preoccupied with, right? So instead of producing elite doctors, we had doctors who were just wanted to be doctors because of social status, right? They didn't want to become the best in their fields. They didn't want to compete in their field. They just wanted the social status of the fucking doctor, right? Their minds wasn't set to being uh the best in discovering new ways to heal people, right? They were preoccupied, right? They were preoccupied with sports and entertainment. That shit trickled off down into us because we wanted to be like them and they wanted to be like whites. So when they would see white people at the social clubs, they didn't know that white people was brokering deals and, you dig what I'm saying? All of this shit in their social clubs. They would just think that they out there playing golf, right? That they're just playing cricket, that they're into the sports. No, they're there brokering deals and talking about their business, and we just caught up in how it looks. All right, I gotta get off of here, y'all. My client about to come. It's 2:30. Matter of fact, I want to start a panel real quick, but let me finish this real quick, right? I gotta get ready for my 2:30. Right? It says they follow religiously the scores of the various teams and achievements of all the players. For hours, they listen to the radio accounts of sports and watch baseball and football games on television. They become learned in the comments of the sports writers. Often, they make long journeys in order to see their favorite teams, white, white or Negro. God damn it. Hold on, y'all. yeah. So where you at?
Architectural digest, my premises. She just spent $1 million on the finishes.
What's up, Chef? This mother right here from motherfucker. Yo, Chef, can you hear me? Maybe they Mhm.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, what's up with you, big dog?
Oh shit,
Let me,
what's
let
the
me,
deal?
let me talk to you for a second.
All right, go ahead. Break it
I'm,
down.
I'm curious.
Where I go wrong?
I'm curious as to how I keep finding myself in this predicament where I'm like I'm listening to the conversations and I'm hearing the black stuff in it, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, but
I'm
I'm
black.
trying to
I'm black. Ain't
I'm
I black?
constantly on a what purpose? Huh?
Ain't I black?
What?
Ain't I black? I said, ain't I a black man?
Oh, we definitely a black man. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. That's why you keep hearing that black shit.
No. I'm not asking. I'm not saying why do I keep hearing the black shit.
Okay.
And you, it's about how we talk about the black shit. You don't think that I'm actually asking a fair question when I say we should be attempting to have a healthy relationship with blackness regarding these conversations. So like, and this is what I mean. So you gave a cool excerpt of a part of Black history. I didn't know. I didn't know that there was somebody out there who gave a scathing critique of Black elitism and how their methods on their upward mobility But so now that we've discovered that, like, what's there to be learned as a black man? What do I take from what you said? Become more serious about what? What would I be becoming more serious?
Um, so if you can take anything out of it individually, that'd be good. But for the most, it's talking about our culture and how we, you dig what I'm saying, advance the society, like the idle things that we do, the things that we give attention to more than anything. You dig what I'm saying? So if you don't do those things, if those things don't hold you back personally, then you don't have to take nothing from it. But if you can see how they could be holding us back, you know, far as wise as a collective, if you see those things being an issue, then that's when it'll make sense to you. But if anything that I said don't pertain to you, if you already got it down where you don't, you know what I mean, then no, it don't pertain to everybody individually. It pertains to us all, us collectively, though. You dig what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, right? So it sounds so like what I'm saying, and let me make sure you're hearing what I'm saying too, is that you have to be when you talk about blackness like this, right? You have to be motivating somebody to do something or another. Am I wrong when I say that? First off,
No, you're
am I
absolutely
overshooting the
right.
mark?
No,
Okay,
you're
so
right.
in this particular instance, let's make sure I'm hearing you correctly. You are trying to tell unmotivated people to become more motivated. Am I hearing
Yeah,
you correctly?
or not unmotivated people, because sometimes motivated people don't know how to um, get the most out of their ability. You dig what I'm saying? Or their capability.
Oh,
You
okay,
understand what I'm
cool.
saying? So,
Let's stay right there. Finish your statement. I don't want to move off of exactly what you said.
so say I have ambition, right? But I could have things that get in the way of my ambition that I don't know that is a hindrance to me, right? Because in my
Hmm.
community, these things are just things that we do. We don't, you know what I mean? But they can have negative effects on me moving forward, you know what I mean, in business or in my professional or in my, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So if I'm preoccupied with the rap with entertainers, right? If I spend more time being entertained than I do in making myself more efficient in my craft, then my craft will suffer, right? Now, my social status arise, right? Because I'm able to move in my social circle better because I know all of the new gossip about, you dig what I'm saying? All of the entertainers, I'm up on all of the current movies. You dig what I'm saying? Anything that we could talk about in leisure that we do, I am a PhD in that shit. But in my business, I'm a guy, I'm still a damn novice, right? In my profession, I'm still a novice because I didn't gave that time to leisure shit. And I wonder why I'm not moving ahead, right? And I got the ambition. I want to be better, you know what I mean, in my business. But the things that I do socially, right, I'm giving too much attention to those things versus, you dig what I'm saying, my profession. And that happens a lot with us in school, right? Everybody want to
Hmm.
get good grades. You know what I mean? Don't nobody go to school and say, I want to get bad grades. But then a lot of people have poor studying habits. They can't concentrate. They don't know why they can't concentrate, right? They're more preoccupied with the game that's about to come on. And they know they got a 300-page book that they need to read, right? But, you know, in your social circle, you fare better knowing what happened in the Knicks game last night, right? All of those, it's those type of things that we engage in. You dig what I'm saying? That that the book is actually, speaking to. You get what I'm saying?
I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm trying. So now I'm trying to connect it with the story, right? So in what you were talking about, you were saying how black people were writing
I
about.
was reading what a sociologist said.
I'm sorry, yeah, you was reading a sociologist was saying that
Hmm.
the black bourgeois were co-opted the working class black people for their own agenda, basically, right?
Yeah.
For their own upward mobility, and
Hmm.
decided, and basically left them out once they got what they was.
Hmm.
So in this story, the adversity would be black people, right? So I'm trying. It's almost like you told a story about why we can't trust black people. That's almost like what I got out of it, and I'm trying to figure out, like, what's the point of that? Like, what were
The
you
truth,
trying
the
to?
the point, the point was to acknowledge. All right, so if I tell you how systemically, right, we have issues with law enforcement, right, and I warn you against the things that law enforcement do to ensnare us, right? Then
Hmm.
would you think I'm trying to do you a disservice, or it was something negative about how I tell you how to move, what I mean, as far as law enforcement? Would you
Well, you
say,
you you didn't necessarily tell me something negative directly, but you've taken an option off the table. So when I do feel as if I need law enforcement, should I now be apprehensive about calling them because of your story? Like what's,
yeah,
you get what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like am I now taking black people off the table as an option because they don't have a spotless record? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, which one of these people groups am I going to be able to bring up with and be talking about perfection? You know what I'm
have
saying?
have you ever had a dog?
Yeah,
All right. So your dog can be your best friend and a protector, right? At
yeah,
the same time, right?
yep.
Your dog could also one day bite your ass. Now, being aware of that, does that take anything? No, that's putting more options or more knowledge on the table for you. You dig what I'm saying? Like, so if you ever found out your dog bit somebody, right now you know that I need to be a little bit cautious around this dog and watch for his triggers, right? Because even
But
though he,
I'd have to be naive to assume that dogs won't bite people, wouldn't
mhm. Yeah, 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 yeah,
I?
yeah. So
I
you would
mean,
have to,
it's all possible when you get down to it, right?
mhm. But what if you have a record of them actually doing it? So then the possibility is gone off the table, and we're talking about the nature and how a thing actually operates. Now we're not talking about anything abstract.
Oh,
We're talking about the nature. So now when we find out
okay,
that the black bourgeois
right.
on
So
leash
you're telling me
have
what to
done
expect
things,
from dogs, right?
yeah. But now we're not talking metaphorically. We're talking about what's actually in that dog's nature, right? We're talking about something that dog actually then exhibited. So yes, you're supposed to watch out
Mm-hmm.
for it. You know what I mean? Now we're not, now me and you right now, everything that you said is right on the table. There's no way to get around it. You dig what I'm saying?
Okay, so no, I got you. I got you. I'm summarizing. Now that I got all the points out the way, the summary is, um, tell me if my summary is wrong. Fucking wealthy black people aren't to be trusted either. They're just as bad. They're just as bad as white when it comes to the interests of working black.
You have to know the nature of them, that they could be a problem. Not saying that you
Okay.
could say everyone would be, but just know your history with them. You dig what I'm
Okay.
saying? Don't take that off
Does
the
does
table.
does the working class black man have any friends at all?
Yeah, he has white friends, he has black friends. You dig what I'm saying?
We
You
got
know,
white friends and black friends, and white enemies and black enemies. Correct.
yes, sir.
So it's really just fair to say he got friends and he's got enemies, and it's not necessarily about color.
Yeah, it is about color
It
because
is about color,
all
but you got friends on both sides.
yeah, but if one, you have to know how both operate. Are you doing this on purpose?
No, I'm dead serious. Like what you mean? I gotta know how. I'm not gonna. We can have in one conversation summarize the behavior of all black people or all white people.
No, no, it's about knowing how they
Like,
operate.
am
So,
I gonna
so
understand the nature?
all right. So let me give you an analogy. Right? You have
Mm-hmm.
you have a tiger and you have a wolf. They're both predators, but they both are predatory in different ways. They have two different hunting tactics, right? You dig what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
if you, I'm basically saying that you need to know how each one of them approaches their prey. So the black don't approach the prey the same way as the white. You dig what I'm saying? Uh, uh, that's why it's good. Man, Brass was supposed to read the Ballad of the Bullet.
I don't ever I don't ever see myself approaching a situation. But that's me. You know what I'm saying? I get what you're saying. Um, not I'm really not too sure why you're saying it, but I get what you're saying. It makes some sense to say it.
Mhm.
I'm just not so sure of like what good comes out of saying it. I just don't I don't get that. And I'm not trolling. I'm not trying to hold you up. I'm really like dead serious. Like yeah, of
So you
course.
don't think it
You
was
know,
no good in
push
that black?
blackness.
So you don't think it was no good in that black sociologist who was the dean of Howard, right? And writing the book. Like, what was all his research for? If you logic don't feel as though it was no, but I don't
No,
understand what you're saying.
I'm not talking about his research. I'm talking about your vigor to like, oh, I found this and I need to share it with y'all.
Why wouldn't I?
Right? Like so I understand his purpose in his social environment, why he would say it. I'm more confused about why you would say it in your social environment.
Oh, I think I have the same reason why he, shared it with the world. I didn't deviate from, what I mean, me and him
Right.
don't
So
have.
you're saying you're saying today that there is a league of black people working behind the scenes to uplift themselves and keep working class black people down.
whether they know it, whether they know it or they're doing it intentionally, you know what I mean? But it's how things work. I gave the example of how in the late 90s, early 2000s, how we had clear cut examples of Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and them doing the shit. You dig what I'm saying? That was playing out right in front of my eyes. Now, um, so why wouldn't I, what I mean? They were screaming and there was so much injustice going on. And then they was the ones benefiting from that social outcry financially. You dig what I'm saying? They were
Mm-hmm.
getting the businesses and stuff that they were claiming. You dig what I'm saying? That these white corporations was keeping out of reach from black people. The way that these corporations would shut them up was by giving them those contracts. So they benefited personally, and not the black people in large that they was claiming was being shut out of those industries. You dig what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a case of the elite, right, using us, as a stepping stone for their own personal,
Right. Right.
gain.
Okay. So we didn't step back in. At least it sounds like we stepped back into it's
I gave you
hopeless.
clear examples, but I gave you
Is one of
clear
the
examples.
is right right. I'm saying I'm saying the step you can step back into now it's hopeless, right? So we can't So white people, by and large, I mean, you're not saying it, but I'm assuming that you're kind of saying that by and large, in just according to their nature, they can't be a reliable tool
I
to
didn't
help us
say
out
that. I
socially.
didn't say that.
Okay,
Because
okay, so
I definitely said we had white friends and we had black friends. So
you
obviously,
did,
I'm
you
not
did.
talking about nature. You just threw that in there because you trying to get a
Well,
rise
I mean,
out
you use the word, and I'm trying to figure out. I mean, you use the word. I'm just trying to figure out where does it fit into what we're talking about, right? I mean, because it is if you're talking about the dog's nature, right? Are you talking? I asked you if we're talking about other people's nature, and I don't remember your response. I don't want to try to make it.
I'm talking about social groups and not
Uh,
and not the nature as in uh, a characteristic of um, a human being. I'm talking about socially. You know what I mean? Their social group, how a social group is used to propel themselves, not as in this is how individuals act, this is how these groups act towards or can be predatory towards other groups. You dig what I'm saying? Not saying that they don't show instances where they are a friend or we don't have some of them being uh, you dig what I'm saying? I don't get why you fighting this.
all right.
I'm
I'm
lost.
I'm just I think we might be missing each other somewhere. We might be talking
No,
past
I
each other a
get you.
little bit.
We do this all the time. I
Yeah,
know where you
it's
at,
just
and you know where I'm at.
yeah. I swear to you, like my little time away from uh, going live so much. I've sat back and I've listened to shows when I can, and I'm still fearful in that same regard as to what are we telling people. What is the message that a person would get out of that, and is it violent? You know what I'm saying? Am I leaving you with the one thing I feel like I'm really trying to steer you away from, which is alternative methods of getting whatever you're trying to do. Once you get so wild where you're talking about we need our own land and we need our own military, because the more options you take off the table, the more extreme the outcome has to become, right? Because if I don't have options to rely on the state, if I don't have the options to rely on the federal government and all these kind of other things, then you would only have one option as far as what you want to take it to. Okay. All right. Yeah, so you would want to at least make it deter people away from that. And from what I heard, um, you didn't really leave anything on the table. And
All right.
maybe that would just be a difference on how I would say it versus how you would say it, because I know you too. You know what I'm saying? I know that I'm walking you through this because I'm trying to give you like a listener's perspective. Okay, so now that I've heard you say that, so what do I do with it? Right? Do I am I now have I found a new enemy in the bourgeoisie? Have I found a new friend in the guy who wrote the book? You know what I'm saying? So how do I incorporate that into my worldview and have something that's, good for days? You get what I'm saying? That's pretty much all I'm really saying. So, and maybe that could just be my personal opinion. I mean, nobody else is up here expressing how it made them feel. So I'm just rambling at the moment, but that's how it makes me feel. Right? It makes me feel like taking these options off the table. It doesn't leave you with anything that you actually can digest and turn into anything. You know what I'm saying? You can't do nothing. To me, there wasn't much more other than just be upset. And I feel like I've been there in the audience and just left these conversations feeling upset, and you don't really know what happened or who's responsible for you being upset, right? You know what I'm saying? You don't know what to change. You don't know who to talk to. So you come back here. and just have an opinion, but you never start moving towards anything of substance, right? You just mad. Don't necessarily know at what, don't necessarily know at who, or who to talk to about it. You know what I'm saying? So that's me. You know,
So if
I don't
you
want to take over
listen,
your
so
show.
no, you good. Listen, I'm glad you came up. So my thing is, do you leave a podcast with all of the answers, or do you leave with some answers and a lot of thoughts?
It,
That's a
it
question.
depends on what the podcast. Yeah, it
I mean,
depends on what the
anything. Have
podcast was
you ever
about.
felt as though you left any podcast where you felt as though you had all of the answers because of the podcast? You dig what I'm saying? And everything. No, it doesn't work like that. A lot of things are presenting information to you. Sometimes a lot of the information be new to you, right? So you can go and research further. Some things you can say, I don't even want to engage with that dumb shit or that subject ever again, or I might need to look into that. That's the only thing you get out of it. I'm not offering no solutions. You dig what I'm saying? If I offer some solutions, then good. But other than that, look, what did I say? I'm just a barber.
Hmm.
The only thing I can show you at the end of the day is how to get a line out of a fade. You feel
No,
me?
I hear you.
That
I know you. See, I know you're just a barber, right? But
right.
I also hear these audiences and how crazy. I'm not going. I mean, I'm not going to try to go there as far as how crazy I think some of them are. But there are a lot of people who be under the impression that these people are real historians. These people, you know what I'm saying? And you don't necessarily allow people to make those mistakes with you personally. But yeah, people will call you a historian. You know that. You know. So you being just a barber is something that you can say, but I know unfortunately, our audience isn't quite so discerning when it comes to who they should take information from you.
Well, I don't. I'm not presenting myself as somebody that you shouldn't
No, you're
listen
not.
to.
No, you're not.
I
You're
ain't
not
saying
saying
dismiss
you're an
me.
expert.
I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I don't think I should be dismissed so
No, I
easily
don't think
because I'm
nobody should
not
be
an
doing
expert either. You know what I'm saying?
that. I
So,
feel you. I feel you. Yeah, I feel you.
I ain't up
Yeah, I
here
mean
just
that's
talking for nothing. You feel
and
me?
maybe that's just a concern. Maybe that's just a concern that I have, and I keep having because I actually, I'm a black man. I actually care about the subject matters, but and what I be caring about most is absolutely like what message are we actually leaving to people, with some of the conversation. That just might be my personal dilemma too. Right? Some of that might be it could be a number of things, and I could be totally wrong, which I'm not tripping with.
Mhm.
That's how it makes me feel.
So so
That's all.
so I had said earlier that I wanted one of y'all to start another tab in the Discord, and I can put some of these books in the Discord as PDFs, and y'all can download them. So if you read it, you might
Okay.
get something completely different out of it. You dig what I'm saying? You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Instead of, you know what I mean? That'd be the
Uh,
best way to do it.
no, I feel you. I feel you. Me personally, so I'd be happy to put the tab in there.
Yeah.
This little break for me though, man. I done got a little disenchanted a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I'm 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 a little bit more frustrated than I am excited, with most of the stuff. But that is what it is. I don't get on here to like take out my frustrations because that would just look bad. You know, which
So that's my
it's
thing. When I don't like the conversations that I hear, I start my own conversations. See, you have
hmm
your own channel. You have the ability to start a conversation that is interesting to you or that you think can solve some shit that the other people ain't solving or ain't doing it for you. I don't get frustrated. I just don't turn on shit that, you know what I mean, I think ain't worth shit. And I
right,
create
right,
conversations that I feel as though is worth shit. You know, that's,
Yeah, I got you.
that's how that shit go. You know what I mean? Like I don't watch
Yeah.
Sarnetta as much no more. You dig what I'm saying? Don't nothing over there do it for me no more. Not that he got a bad channel or anything.
Splice.
I'm just moved on from that shit.
Right.
I'm
I'm just
not.
yeah. I'm past it.
I'm past it. You dig what I'm saying? And I don't have to down it because somebody getting something out of it. You feel me? Somebody turned it
Yeah.
on and they way I used to be at 7 years ago. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. And you're right about that. And you can't hold yourself responsible to dig everybody out of that. Absolutely not. That would be too much energy out of your own body for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean I get that. You're certainly not about to waste basically just precious time trying to convert people to your worldview. That's kind of silly.
Yeah, that was like I did too much of that with the pseudo killers. Fighting
Yeah.
everything that they wanted. Half the shit I don't even care about. You feel me? So I'm not even getting up there. You know what I mean? Like so, you know,
Yeah, that's
it it's just
yeah,
like with
as a
y'all.
that's just a wait, go ahead.
No, it's just like with y'all with the Ibrahim Torre. I didn't even get involved in that for real. I'm
Hmm.
I'm not. I'll listen, but I don't have to get involved. I know I don't know nothing about that shit to even start to try to figure out what's going on in some damn West Africa. Like that's gonna take too much out of my time, too much brain power. I got too much stuff too much ground to make up. You know what I mean? I'm not
Right,
gonna
right.
become, you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna make too many mistakes in that. You know what I mean? Just
Hmm.
understanding the complexity of those West African states, right? Half of them are new. Half of them come out of another country. You dig what I'm saying? Colonization and
Right.
post-colonization and neo-colonization, all of that shit, man. You know what I mean? 27 different ethnic groups living in one city together, vying for power,
Right.
having issues with each other for the last 500 years. And
Yeah, we
you
can't
not going,
understand that.
yeah, I ain't.
Yeah, we can't even fathom that on the ground from thousands and thousands of miles away. We don't know nothing about it.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So
okay,
to
so let
try
me
to
let me
act
ask you
like
this, because
Torre was some hero or the supervillain, I don't think we're capable of making that. You dig what I'm saying?
right. We ain't over there. We not the people. None of that.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
All right, go
It
ahead. What
might
was the
look
question?
crazy to me. Over there, they might be like, yeah, do it again. You know what I'm saying? That's all I
Exactly.
know. But,
Exactly.
so let me ask you this. My expectations might have just been off too. Because for me, I feel like I could say stuff and make it make sense. In my head, I was like I may never convert James, but I really had these conversations for people like James, right? See, I
Mm-hmm.
know like James has all that enthusiasm, but he don't necessarily know what to do with it. He needs somebody to kind of like hold his hand,
Directing.
walk him through. This is what you need to do with it, right? This ain't no crash out mission. You know what I'm saying? That we talking about.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, the simplest thing you could do is vote. So you talk about like just the most initial essential things that you could do. We can't we can't even move people to get into that arena, more or less, you know, reconstitute their entire worldview about blackness and all of that kind of shit. You can't, like, in all reality, I feel like I can't even make you to yourself. You get what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So how do I look at trying to coach you out of ancient black people and shit like that? You know what I'm saying? I can't even get you up to 2025, more or less, get you to vote and look at all that kind of shit. So that's all. I
But
know that
James
you
don't
get my
vote.
dilemma, and hell no, none of that. James my guy, but he don't vote. He don't mess with the system. He don't do none of that. I keep telling y'all, man, if y'all really want to start some shit up, man, stop paying y'all taxes, man. Show the government who boss. Don't pay no taxes. Handle your business. I keep saying it, but ain't
Most
nobody
black
taking
people
it
don't
that
got the
serious.
ability to do that because you work for a company. The company gonna take them taxes out regardless. It ain't no
No,
way
I
to.
feel you, but it's not as extreme as being militant, right? But it's a stand nonetheless, right? That's all I'm saying. So if you're not gonna vote, you're not gonna go, beat somebody up and crash out. All these other things that you ain't gonna do. Well, what is you gonna do? Talk about Africa? Talk about Egypt? Talk about Traore? That ain't that ain't liberating, or nothing. Yeah, that ain't doing anything. So it's a sublim. It's like a backhanded challenge, right? I know that you're not going to do it, but I also, by you answering that, it just shows me that you can't be that serious. You're not ready to give up anything. You know what I'm saying? For what you claim, oh, this is so important that you ain't gonna miss a day of work. You ain't gonna, you know what I'm saying? Nothing. So
Oh no, it's not. It's not affecting their day to day. You get what
at
I'm
least
saying?
not enough. At least not enough for them to be, uh, in motion behind it. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like if you lose your job today, you're going to be in motion to figure that out. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be boots on the ground, calling people. You're going to be doing all kind of stuff, right? But that's what a motivated person looks like. I don't think anybody's naive enough to know that a motivated person ain't sitting there looking at the rap albums and talking about that shit all day. That's not what, you know what I'm saying? That's what comfortable people do. But
Yeah,
I get it.
sometimes you're comfortable in shit and you shouldn't be. You dig? Sometimes you're in the
Now this is
store.
true.
You shouldn't even be comfortable. Like, girls used to say this when I was younger. How could a dude want to date if they ain't got no money? Like, you need to be focused on getting some money instead of getting some ass. You know what I mean? Because you get some money, the ass gonna come. You feel me? Like that's
Hmm.
so
Right,
you
right, right,
focused
right.
on the wrong thing
You
at the
you
wrong
you doing
time.
it? Yeah, you doing it backwards.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
doing it backwards. You know what I mean? Always say, I never seen a man lose a woman chasing money, but I seen a man lose money chasing women. You get what I'm saying?
Right, right.
So
Absolutely.
that's that's the whole thing with that. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah. Hey,
You know
that
what I
that
mean?
that just I think that summarizes my dilemma the best way I. Can you still hear me, Byron?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, and this is a part of the reason why my worldview is what it is. I actually believe that oppression is a characteristic of imperialism, right? And I know it's unfortunate, and I'm not trying to gloss over it or minimize it. Yeah, I'm not trying to minimize it, but what I'm saying is we so happen to be on the losing end of this particular empire, but all empires have, some degree of oppression. And typically, not worse than the slave trade, but socially, socially the gap is usually a little bit wider than what it is here in the United States.
headphones are disconnected. My bad.
Are you good? I'm still here too. I was yelling. I had to mute myself for a second. I think Sosa said he about to come up here.
Oh, okay. That's what's up. Yeah, my daughter had called me in the middle, and it switched to my phone. Yeah, but it ain't about getting disillusioned. You dig what I'm saying? I mean, you just do the shows that you interested in. You know what I mean? And if you got a good command over it, people will watch it. You dig what I'm saying? That's just all it's about. Or if you seem passionate enough about it, then people will watch it. So, but yeah, I don't think I present stuff to give everybody answers. You know what I
No,
mean?
I don't.
Half the,
I don't
half the
think you.
time I'm trying to work stuff out myself. You feel? Like
I
how
don't
do
think
I
that's what
feel
you
about it?
necessarily. Right. I get
Like
you.
I
Yeah,
don't know
I don't
how
think
I
that that's
feel
what you.
about it until y'all start giving pushback for real. That's when I really take a stance. You know what I mean? Depending on where y'all go with it. You know what I mean? If y'all fuck with it, okay, I can fuck with it. But you know, a lot of times y'all arguments make me see where I need to be at on it. You know what I mean? So.
Right. Yeah, and we've been talking about that. I certainly want to. I want to get back into it, but I gotta get my passion back on. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I definitely got to get into some topics that I'm actually interested in, so that I can have more people
Hmm.
talking about.
Oh no, no
Yeah,
doubt,
no doubt.
no doubt. Like whatever
Yeah,
you.
I'm gonna get back into it. My schedule just got a whole lot freer. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I just got all my little freedom back, so I'm Gucci now.
Okay. So yeah, that's all it's about right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like taking time off and then getting into other things. You know, that's where topics actually come from. And then watching other shows. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah.
sit there for hours and watch Psycho show. You know what I'm saying? Some of the stuff I be like, damn, I need to look into that. You know what I mean? Oh, that's something I
Yeah,
need to.
I be watching a lot of psycho shows and some Q butter shows. A lot of them be hella interesting, and a lot of times, man, the people come on the panels and just mess the whole goddamn thing up. But, that's just what they deal with over there. They gotta, for some reason they're constantly unwinding. What does Black Power have to do with the flat Earth? What does Black Power have to do with whatever? Hebrew Israelites or whatever. So they do a lot of that.
Yeah, you get bogged down into some nut ass shit.
Yep, over and over. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Some nut ass shit.
You get bogged down into some nut ass shit like yo. But those people watch your shows, so you know you don't ever want to turn on your audience. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? You don't
Right.
you don't ever want to turn on your audience. So you know, I don't know. I think that's why Sinetta do what he do. He don't turn on his audience. Only when they start,
Hmm.
only when they start, coming at him, he'll turn on them. You dig what I'm saying?
Right.
But
Yeah.
as
He
long as they still talk
Frankie is
about
snap.
information, yeah. Once they start saying something negative about him, he go, hey, my man Sosa come. Yeah, like what's the name said, pseudos love hitting the button. They love getting on the panel. That's right.
Spewing that crazy shit. They love that shit.
Them pseudos love hitting that panel, yo. You can't stop them. But they help make the show, though.
They do help make the show. And for me, I feel like it's all one and the same. Like whichever alternative method that you use, to me, they're all the same. You Hebrew Israelite, flat earther, whatever that little pseudo shit is, black supremacist, or all that shit's all the same. You know what I'm saying? That's how I look at it. Is that you the way I see it is you have evaluated the world and you've evaluated your options as far as like, damn, how do I fix this scenario? And it you have come across like it's so difficult that I need to come up with an answer outside of reality. And that's what I hate to hear. I hate to hear that all of that fervor get turned into we need a military. You know what I'm saying? I hate that shit. Hate it. You got all that good energy, all that passion, and you're serious about it, but you can't come up with an idea better than military. Like a Bob and Shepard.
You need a military. I'm with them. Sosa, what up?
Ain't much. I popped in halfway through the show. I caught a little part I catch. You touched on the origin of Memorial Day and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
one of
yeah.
the things that they said the first people to commemorate Memorial Day, you dig what I'm saying, was black people. I think in Charleston, South Carolina or something like that.
Went to crib. That's what I'm
hmm
saying. Yeah,
But then
yeah.
other people started, doing celebrations, but the first one on record was the black
Yeah,
people of Charleston, South Carolina.
yeah. So
You know
that's
what I mean? I
definitely
said
something
that's dope.
was whitewashed in a sense.
hmm
Really, like there was an active like little campaign to kind of erase that little historical nugget. You know what I mean? But
hmm
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. So I was saying, I think logic thing with every African American venture we get into, we think like we're about to go full right wing blackologist with it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I've been trying to figure out Lottie. Like, I don't think Lottie trusts us. I think Lottie think we you know what I'm saying? We like
He
quite
ain't
like a
seen
sneak
us
into
in
all the
action, and it's
blackologist group.
crazy because I thought Logic seen us in action to trust us a little bit. You dig what I'm saying? That's crazy, Logic. That is
Yeah,
crazy.
he think we a sleeper cell. We a sleeper cell of blackology movement.
Yeah, that's crazy, Logic. Yo, I think man, Sosa and them been showing we know how to navigate through blackology and come out on the better end of it.
So you funny as hell, boy. But now y'all, I can tell y'all in a different space, right? Y'all have the conversation intellectually, even willing to kind of like look back at blackology. So I don't mean y'all, and this is not going to be a popular take, but it's really more for the audience, right? Like the fact that I hear y'all talk every day, every other day, and I hear what y'all saying. And in some kind of way, you get a due diligence listening to y'all 3 times longer than me now. And he come away saying we need a military. See, that's what I be saying. It ain't me. Like I can hear what you're saying and navigate it just like how you're saying. But a lot of people in the audience don't appear to have that same ability, and it's for those people who the message needs to get to, right? And they don't seem to be receiving the same message that you're saying, and that's not just y'all. Do that too, right? Like when you listen at talk about Egypt for 5 years, and what he'll do, he'll create more goddamn Egyptians in the process of attempting to kill the few ones that he had, right? Like I see it happen. Again, I'm just saying it's not for us necessarily, but for the people listening, like they might not be able to unwind that shit the same way y'all do. Matter of fact, Psycho and them is a great example. right? Psycho, Psycho, Psycho is not. He is a black nationalist, right? He is not a. At least from what I remember hearing of him, he's not a militant. We need a military fight America person. But you'll hear a lot of people come on his shows and say that we need a military to fight America. You get what I'm saying? So he will get up there week in and week out and say, I wouldn't necessarily go quite that far. You get what I'm saying? But a lot of his listening audiences won't pick up on, okay, we've exhausted the whole let's have a military conversation. And then they bring it up week in and week out. They keep doing it. Like they keep coming to the same conclusion. So that's why I'm saying it's not necessarily for me, and more so for the audience. I get it. I hear what y'all say. I get what y'all say.
No, I get you. I get what you're saying.
Get up this 98, 93 out of 10. I mean, nigga even got this 10,000 out of. Yeah, that's crazy.
And that was your client. He sound like he down in Atlanta or something. Look
Yeah,
out y'all sound country up there.
you know we got them from everywhere.
Mhm.
Mhm. We got them
I'm
from
had to come up.
everywhere.
I'm had to come up there and come up there. Let you trim my beard up one of these times, man. I'm in the neighborhood.
Oh yeah, that's what I do.
You probably gonna charge me about 300 or something. Come crazy.
I'm gonna be yours for free. I'm gonna give you the blackology, baby.
I don't know, man. You making some pretty good money. I don't know. I heard that story you just told. I don't know if I can trust you. I can't
No,
trust
I'm gonna hit you off with the Professor Smalls be.
you.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get you back to
Man,
Africa, nigga.
I swear to God, I think about that shit from time to time. Man, I couldn't have did it no other way, man. I couldn't have sat up there and tried to go at Professor Small's head, man. I just couldn't do it. Couldn't bring myself to quite do that.
I
Couldn't do it.
told you, you went and got the number one. I said that's a good way to start and
It,
end your
it,
career.
if he was about 20 years older, it'd have been. I mean, 20 years younger, it felt different. It would have felt different.
You went after Professor Smalls. I said, I don't know how he think this about to go. This man got
Yeah.
pseudo, every pseudo theory that's out there, he got it. And it's all mixed up into a hodgepodge of nonsense. You feel?
Mm-hmm. But you know, at least he'll come out and say what he means. He didn't do it on that show, but most of the time he'll come right out and say, yeah, we need to fight. We need military. We need this. Yeah, normally he'll do that, but he didn't do it on my show. Yeah, so
He
that was
told
crazy.
you he was
That was
African, Native American, and Chinese all at all
You
at
ain't
the
fucking with
same
that, bro.
time.
The man told me he's been here millions of years and shit, bro. Like, you can't touch that.
Yeah.
I ain't got enough time in the day to unwind that bullshit.
And everybody in the community is scared to say something to him. Like they can't say nothing to him.
That's a shame.
Hmm. The same way you felt. You felt as though you couldn't say nothing to him. Because he's a nice man at the end of the
Mhm.
day.
He is. He definitely ain't like, trying to embarrass you or nothing like that. He just speaking his speech. He's just an old man.
He's a nice guy. So it's like, yo, I don't even want to go at him. You feel
I'd
me?
have liked to see you up there. You a little wilder than me. I think you would have given him.
Yeah, I would have questioned it. I would have definitely. It was certain things about it I would have questioned because I just can't let certain things go. It's not in my nature. You dig what I'm saying? It's not in my
Right.
nature to allow you to say that you Native American, black, and Chinese all at the same time. Like nowhere in the world. You're gonna have to clarify that. You're gonna have to give me a little bit more.
See, that wasn't. See, that wasn't even worth me. That wasn't even worth, like, to me, that wasn't even that was something I thought was a serious enough point of contention. The point of contention was when I was asking you why hasn't Pan Africanism, why hasn't that taken, you know, a bigger toll on Islam, right? Like, why hasn't Islam lost a little power in Africa due to Pan Africanism? And once he gave me an answer to that, and I tried to, like, nudge him a couple times so he could, re-answer that question. And once he never did, that's when I knew I was in for a long ride. I said, this nigga right here ain't finna answer shit.
So what was his answer? What was his reason?
I'm trying to remember. If I remember correctly, he said that it did, which would be a flat out lie. And so basically, you put me in a position where I'm just going. You've left me no choice but to call you a liar because what you said was just so ridiculous. Like it's nothing but that. You know what I'm saying? We can't sit up here and pretend like uh, Islam isn't still an oppressive force on Native Africans. We can't sit there and act like that, right? Some kind of way you'll sit here and try to justify um, something that hasn't worked on in Africa for it to work in America. Like that's basically where we got to. So he was
Well,
willing to go the whole mile to stand that.
well, for me, I take a different approach on that because I feel as though. Hold on, let me let Sosa back. Let me let Sosa back, and when I give you my take on it, I want to see how you feel about that. Hold on. So for me, my take on it is Islam is African. You feel me? Like it's been in Africa for over 1,000 years. You dig what I'm saying? Like it is ingrained
Mm-hmm.
in. You dig what I'm saying? Like so, how long do a thing gotta be in a place before it takes on indigenous features? Most of them people been Muslim longer than their people lived in a particular area. So it's
Mm-hmm.
it's indigenous, right? It then took on linguistic features that then, their Arabic reflects indigenous words and overtones, that everything. You dig what I'm saying? So I don't think that you can remove Islam out of Africa because it's indigenous at this point. One of the first places Islam
Now
went to was
I
Africa.
now I get you. That was one of the questions that I got from ChatGPT. I think, and I'm making sure that you're hearing correctly. So I'm not saying that Islam is not indigenous African. I'm saying that Islam has been used to oppress Africans. That's what I'm saying.
And I'm
Uh,
saying I'm
so
saying
I'm saying
so-called
that
indigenous African religions have done the same thing, right? So anything that you can say
right,
that Islam has done, then there's traditional African religions that's been just as oppressive, right? So
right.
it comes with
It
that's not a
doesn't,
reason to get
it
rid of it.
doesn't matter what you call it. My point is why has Pan Africanism, why hasn't that been effective addressing
Mm-hmm.
whichever religion that you want to call it, right? Why hasn't it been a galvanizing force on Africa for Africans against whatever? right? Like why don't we see that, right? And that it
But we
didn't
do.
necessarily matter if it was Islam. It was you can fill in the blank as far as what the the thing that is oppressing them. Why hasn't Pan Africanism been this ultimate solution for those?
So if that just goes to show that, you know, where you might have limitations in your information, right? So a lot of times the issue is that we have limitations in our information. You dig what I'm saying? And then when you're looking for Pan Africanism to do something like, I think you right on point with the Pan Africanist part. But Islam is not the issue with Pan Africanism. Pan Africanism has an issue with African people getting behind it. So it don't matter whether you're a Muslim, Christian, or a traditionalist, practice of an African spiritual system. It's just uh, Pan Africanism is the issue. You dig what I'm saying? To get
Mm-hmm.
all people to come under a banner is the problem, not the religion. You dig what I'm saying? That's
No,
never going.
I get you, right? But I'm saying that whatever else that any of those forces, be it Islam, be it indigenous populations, be it bad politics, whatever those things are, why haven't we seen Pan Africanism be an effective tool against it on African soil, right? At least in enough of a way to justify us undertaking it as a big thing here in America. You get what I'm saying? Like it
Mhm.
hasn't even necessarily yielded great results in Africa. And we're talking about how important and essential it is for African Americans. You get what I'm
Oh
saying? But
no,
we
listen,
haven't
I'm
seen it.
with you. You ain't
Yeah,
gonna
we
have
haven't seen it
independent Pan
work in
Africanism.
Africa. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like when I wasn't getting honest answers there, this it was like I just kind of couldn't believe that he wasn't being forthcoming. And that threw me off. That was my first like, damn, this ain't gonna be what I thought it was. That was my first tweet.
Have you ever heard somebody really critique their religion? No, they don't. Pan Africanism is like a religion to these niggas. You dig what I'm saying? They're not going to give
Mm-hmm.
an honest assessment of their religion. They know that their religion don't make fucking sense if you know what I mean, really think about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
A Christian knows that, you know, Christianity don't make sense on the surface when you look at, you dig what I'm saying? But
Right.
that ain't going to stop them from believing because they believe overall.
No,
You dig what I'm
I
saying?
feel you. And it would be one thing if it were why as a religion. But I'm saying it's a political. You talking about politics, like you got to be talking about how effective it is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Laughing off at the goons, like you're not constantly at how effective it is, and trying to make it more effective, and so on and so forth, all that kind of stuff. And you really are not doing anything like at all.
So when somebody says that you're following something religiously, right? It's not saying that I'm not saying that Pan Africanism is their religion. I'm saying that it then took on the religious value of not having to make sense, and or you know what I mean. It you're gonna follow it
Yeah, yeah,
regardless
I
of
get
the
that.
flaws or the you dig what I'm saying. Somebody can be a conservative religiously, meaning it doesn't matter what what conservatism is doing right now. They're going to follow it just because they're following it religiously, meaning they don't find the overall error that you find in it. You dig what I'm saying? They believe that in
No, and
totality is right. So in totality, if it's right,
right,
it doesn't have to meet the criteria. You dig what I'm saying? That other things have to meet, just like religion don't have to meet the burden of proof that other things in your life have to meet. You know what I mean? Because you feel as though, because
No,
religious
I get
people
that.
got. All right, cool.
Yeah, to me that makes it even worse. I mean, I don't know to you if you heard yourself saying it, I don't know if that makes it worse because, like I say,
Well,
if
I'm
it's a
not a Pan
political
Africanism.
ideology.
I'm on your
No,
side.
I know you're not. No, I was trying to like if you understood how that made it worse, right? So like in religion, it being rigid like that, unchanging, I don't think that might mess up like how correct you are on a statement or two, but I don't think that it hinders you from your social mobility, right? Whereas I would say the other one actually does hinder you from your social mobility. You get what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
it's potentially dangerous to have all these misconceptions politically and socially, right? Especially when you're talking about actually accomplishing something. And there's a whole lot less risky just in the church. Y'all sitting there believing whatever y'all believe, and y'all believe it. Cool, right? But that's not impacting you. You know your children's ability to get jobs. You know all that kind of other stuff that politics will eventually kind of overlap. You get what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like one of them poses no real threat to the black community. You can believe whatever you want to believe in church. You can be a Scientologist, right? But whole time that doesn't necessarily deter you from political endeavors, or at least being involved in political action. You know what I'm saying? Whereas Pan Africanism directly cuts your involvement in politics and so on and so forth. So that's why I'm so adamant about it. And that shit don't really do us no good. It sounds good, but it don't seem to do us much good.
Yeah, but okay, so listen though, but here's the thing though, right? Like and even though I don't I have my issues with it, but one would be look at it like one sitting on his hands and the other one's making an effort, rightly or wrongly. So even making an effort, you could make mistakes that may spark the mind and create something a little with variations of it that could push it forward, right? Versus one that just kind of sitting on your hand. But you feel like it's better to be safe in a sense than to take a risk.
Well, I'm really more so saying that while the Pan Africans are under the impression that they are not sitting on their hands, they're actually sitting on their hands and telling other people that they should sit on their hands too. That's really more how I see it. I see it as like they're not even aware that they're not being productive, right? So like, and you have a good point. When you got activity, you'll get some lessons learned out of it. Maybe we should try this next time. Put some more effort there next time. And uh, I don't I
Right
don't
now,
see
the
that.
book now say to fail is to fall forward, to stumble is to fall forward faster.
Hmm.
And there was
I,
Malcolm and
I get I get you.
Malcolm.
No, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Now I don't see the Pan Africanisms doing anything to learn lessons from. I more so see them saying, "No, we can't do this because the white man's there." And as Chef eloquently put it, and not saying that that's what he was saying, but
Might
what
be
some of the
extreme.
talking points they do use, we can't use certain groups of black people because they're bourgeoisie or coons or whatever like that. You know what I'm saying? I hear them more so saying all the options that you have to take off the table in order to be a Pan African.
Well, no, I think that's the extreme version of
So I
then uh like
okay.
so the other day I was looking at I was watching I forgot what I was watching. I saw Jeffrey's nephew on TV. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Hakeem Jeffrey,
Mm-hmm.
who was a nephew of I forgot Leonard Jeffrey.
Leonard. Leonard.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and even though and he's there, and it's hard for me to think that influence, the push.
Leonard Jeffrey passed?
No, I don't know if he's passed away. He's pretty old. I'm not quite sure if he's
Oh, I
passed.
thought I thought I heard you said he's dead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. But I'm saying no, his nephew, right? But I'm looking at him thinking like there had to be some influence there. even if it sparked him to be political. You know what I'm saying? Because you could be raised in a Pan-African household and still be like, you know what? I agree with some of the sentiments, but I think that we need to be active in politics, and that could push him towards that. You know what I'm saying? So I was looking at him thinking like, I wonder what influence, if any, or did his uncle have on him, or what was his like? What was that background like that put him there? You know what I mean? That's just one generation. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
So,
I get you.
so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I would call him an outlier, right? That's me personally. I would call him an outlier.
That's dismissible. That's because, but we don't. I only know of him, so I can't. You can't call it outlier because how many more have we explored? I just happen to know that one. You know what I mean? Like,
No, well, let's just for the sake of argument call him a Pan African, and then I'd say, okay, how
no,
much
not I
of the
wouldn't
stuff
call
that
him
he
Pan African. No,
says.
listen, I'm not calling him Pan African. I'm saying like, influences, right?
No, no,
Because
I get what you're
like you
saying. So
can't
I'm
like you
trying to
can't act
flush it
like
all the way out.
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to say like so like what are okay so yeah, but besides the last thing, what are some values or some rhetoric I've heard him say where I would either tie him in or remove him from Pan Africans. You get what I'm saying? Does he use Pan African rhetoric? Does he use Pan African talking points, or does he just come out of a Pan African family? You get what I'm saying? I would want to quantify that some kind of way, and because the relationship's so close, but I don't necessarily mean he is or is not. He might he could look at that shit and just say I love my uncle, but everything you saying is some bullshit. We don't know.
Because one, like Pan Africanism, like anything else, have variations, right? So we're doing it a disservice to act like there's only one iteration of Pan Africanism, right? But now, even though you may disagree, you can't act like this idea is totally trash, right? The quality, this quality in the thinking, right? You may disagree with the mode of getting it done, but we understand the aim, right? And we understand the importance of the aim, the important effect it would have on African Americans specifically,
Can
right?
can I ask you a serious question that don't sound serious? What is the aim of Pan Africanism?
The advancement of black people from
Right.
African
So
American perspective is globally. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so
right when you say advance, you mean money? You mean
all of all of the advancement, money, social, all of it, psychological, is the upward mobility of black people.
I'll table that and roll with it. Go ahead.
I mean, that's what the idea is. Now we disagree with you may disagree with some various forms of it, like somebody talking about getting the military. Okay, no, right? And it's fine, watching or we thinking of NOI back in the day, they're more separatist, or the idea of maybe getting a particular two states separated. Like, okay, that may seem a little far fetched.
Mm-hmm.
But it's aim though. We like the aim. We just don't like. We disagree with the mode of how to get change done, right? So we may say, well, after Pan-Africanism, you need to be engaged in politics, right? Well, you might have one group that may say, hey, you may have other Pan-African groups that support the idea of black unity. Makes sense? So, I'm saying, just to be fair.
No,
But I also think
yeah.
that our Pan-Africanism is different than Africa's Pan-Africanism. When they talk about Pan-Africanism, they talk about the uniting of African countries, which could
Mm-hmm.
benefit us indirectly, maybe, but that's a little different concept than what we're talking about. Because Pan-African, like the Pan-Africans in Africa, are not concerned about the Africans in South America. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
global. So that's a little different.
Right. I thought me personally, and the reason why I said it, I didn't mean for it to sound sarcastic, but the reason why I said that is because I was under the impression that the big goal of Pan Africanism is self sufficiency. Self sufficiency is like I thought that was the big indicator of we've won. We're now reliant on Western powers, Western money. We can't be influenced or bought. You know what I'm saying? We're our own thing. And then so when I think of self sufficiency, I don't see that happening without a military. And to be honest with you, I don't see it happening like realistically with damn near any country. You gotta be relying on certain global economies. So there's always that. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it before it even gets off the ground, it's already starting to mess up. To me, your goal is already so I don't know, maybe unattainable or difficult to obtain. That in order to put all those pieces together, like you would need damn near 200 years to put the pieces together, right? And then some other factors outside of that would have to work in your favor for all that to work out. Like for you to be able to have your own place, to have your own resources, blah blah blah. Like all of that stuff to work out, like it sounds good. I don't know. I think that's unhealthy to talk about it like that. Right? When you begin to talk about um, basically almost signing up your unborn children into a military that you don't have yet, I'm starting to think that you're just a wild character, and you've given up on all reality at that point. But that's
Look,
me.
but
You know what I'm saying?
I agree, but I think that's extreme, though, right? Like that's like general setting. You know what I'm saying? Like for the most part, I don't hear that cry from Pan Africanism. Like, we need to start. Like, we don't see like we don't like the black dude. I think it's called the not fucking around organization, shit like that. You know, all the black guys, Stone Mountain had guns, shit like that. Like, we don't really see that. A whole military branch, you know what I mean? I think for the most part, that's not what it is. For the most part, I think it's like I don't know. I want to use Professor Small. I don't know if that's a real good example, but I don't want to make it seem like all Pan Africans believe they indigenous Chinese and African Americans. You know what I'm saying? But it's in the
Mhm.
realm. It's in the vicinity of where Professor Small is at. It's like an ideological framework in which to operate from, like this type of being, or what they say, African central. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Right. I get that. I mean, and to me, self reliance is still at the core of it. I mean, but that's from what I've been listening to. You know that you might be telling me something totally different, but I
No different than with
if it,
Jews. No different.
say
You know what I
what?
mean? No different than with any other race. It's, you know what I mean? Reliance on building a trust and reliance with ourselves to uplift ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Now we say, you know what? Yo, you need more people, and I can agree with that. You need allies. I can agree with that. You know what I mean? But
no, I mean, look, and this is where it starts to confuse me again, right? Because anything outside of the self reliance and own military, I have I now see as a contradiction. Because if you're not saying that, then everything else you're describing is well within your rights now. Like you know what I'm saying? Everything else that you have, that you would say that you would want other than the social mobility, you actually have. So if you're not saying that we need to separate our societies, our monies, like you're kind of saying that we're going to cooperate with the same people who you are spending a lot of time saying how much you distrust them. You get what I'm saying? Like you could only be doing one of the two things: either getting away from the problem or working with the problem. And working with the problem makes you a contradiction. Did either one of you two see it that way, or am I overshooting? I say it's a contradiction because you can't make an enemy out of the United States. And then in turn you require the United States to aid you in whatever your cause is. Like they're a necessary cog for you to get something done, and they're your enemy at the same time. Like which one is it?
I get it. I think there's definitely a threshold, right? If you look at the Black Panthers, right? There's definitely I think the balance is in between that. Because there's a threshold of where you can align with the Black Panthers, and there's another threshold you're like, yo, y'all gonna die. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause you know, 'cause you know what I'm saying? Like the threshold between that and terrorism. You know, United
Yeah,
States terrorism.
there's a very fine line between that and espionage, and yeah,
Right.
and you being a local terrorist. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the we do need that balance. So we do need people that's right that sit there on the threshold to push us forward. You know what I'm saying? Because they're gonna be the ones that don't allow us to get too comfortable. Right? We don't want terrorism though. Right?
Right. Yes, I
Like
agree. There
it's
is
it's a fine line. It's a tightrope. It's definitely a tightrope. You
no,
know what I mean?
that brings us right to the healthy part of the conversation. There is a very delicate balance there, right? And when you fully aware you try to accomplish, you're absolutely doing exactly what you're saying. You're kind of towing the line between being militant and being American. You know, for all there's no other way to say it. You know, that's exactly where the dilemma lies, right? Either you I mean, it's not that you have to necessarily trust or like other ethnic groups, but to understand that it's a cooperative effort, to me just seems to be like step one. You know what I'm saying? That just seems to be step one, is realizing that unfortunately Black people in America, we can't do it by ourselves. That's unfortunate reality. It seems to be what like the reality of the world actually is.
Yeah, you know, but look, even when I look at people like the Black Panthers, right, and it's like you see what a people will do if you force them to it, and then you see the length that a people will do, the length that they'll go to. But then, like, you know, I mean, a lot of them knew that they were gonna die. I mean,
Mhm.
like, it was like they were quite fine with that, but it was like, you know, but it was like that's what it had to, that's what it took. You know what I'm saying? That's the mindset that had to be had. So like I said, I think there's that tightrope walk that has to be done, or that needs to be done. But we agree with the aim. We just don't agree with the how you want to get there. Right?
No,
You
and
know,
that's
you don't think that you don't feel like Black people are good enough where we are. We do think that we need to. There's more that needs to be done.
oh, absolutely. There's a lot more that needs to be done.
And
And not yeah, that's
how you think we should,
that
like with a type of unit, with a type of group self-reliance, or a type of um more ally reliant. Like how would you describe it? How would you explain it?
I so in real life, I honestly believe that you have a better you're more productive when you surround yourself with people who have similar ideas, not necessarily similar anything else, right? The fact that y'all got similar ideas and similar goals, that is enough for y'all to have, to y'all plans can run parallel. You know what I'm saying? Y'all can figure out a way to meet each other at the top.
Yeah,
But but that doesn't have anything to do with college. That would be one thing I would emphasize a whole lot more is you get around people who have similar ideas. Hopefully those ideas aren't suicidal. I
but
would say it like that.
but those similar ideas, to even know that you have those similar ideas, all that shit requires proximity. So, you know, in terms of proximity, where where most of us are segregated, right? So that shared value, that shared idea is going to come within our group based on proximity. You know, so right. So
I
now
mean, yeah.
we back at self-reliance. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's the defining of the self-reliance. Maybe that could be you reworked a little. I don't think the self-reliance as far as we don't need American politics or American government or American money. Yeah, but
No,
that seems to be the sentiment.
that's extreme. That's extreme. Well,
Yeah,
that's
but
extreme.
and
We
I
gotta take
agree.
action.
I agree that that sounds extreme, but it seems to be the most common reply.
Those are unrealistic people that you just ignore those people. You got unrealistic people at all walks of life under all different thought processes. You're gonna have your extreme people that's just irrational and can't really be talked to. So like my question is this: like, what's your issue with Pan Africanism specifically? Like, is your
I
issue with is your issue with people that claim Pan Africanism, or is your issue with the ideology?
Really, my issue is more of the project, right? And this is where I can admit, I don't have. I'm not like deeply researched, but when I look at the few Pan Africans I've met in real life, and the Pan Africans I've met online, they typically lean into military, and that's where I feel like your plan starts to dissolve if it requires military force. You get what I'm saying? Because you won't have enough military force to bully America. You get what I'm saying? So like if your key to success is bullying America by force, I feel like you've set yourself off on a path where you'll either never, like, you may never get there, right? Like freaking Russia couldn't beat Ukraine for 3 years, and America fought that war through the mailbox, right? So we're talking about trying to surpass Russia in a short amount of time to be able to get some more African American entrepreneurs, CEOs, and owners. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where it starts to dissolve for me.
These people that say we need a military, are these back to Africa people, or these people that talk about repatriation?
No, they're really just more so of like, how do we move forward in America, people, right? So that, and then when I hear a lot of you guys, and not necessarily you specifically, but like people be up there and talk about how do we move forward here in America, and typically the conversation goes into, well, we need to leave America or separate ourselves, right? We need to carve out a small niche of America or carve out a small niche somewhere else and do our own thing. And in which case, like
It's the
you
separatist
couldn't do
part.
that without.
The separatist
Yeah,
part.
the separatist part is what it leads to. But yeah, we'll address it one at a time.
No, I was saying it's the separatist part that's the issue. Like,
Yeah, we can deal with the separatist part now, but it's the separatist militant, right? It almost sounds like we're putting ourselves in danger just because we care, and I understand that we care, but to attack America militarily, that don't sound like a smart thing. That's all I'm saying.
I got you. Like I'm a separatist, right? I don't talk the crazy talk that these people talk or whatever. I'm a little bit more realistic with my separatism. I feel like in the future, that's the best place for Black people in this country to be, is in their own nation. But I also am realistic about it. Like I said, I understand this ain't going to happen in our lifetime. I don't feel like it's going to happen with us picking up arms today and going out and just ramshacking White Houses like we Nat Turner and everything else. No, that's unrealistic. I got nonviolent ways of going about getting this separation done. I speak on it a lot. So I'm very real about how it can get done, and I agree we shouldn't be going on suicide missions, but My whole position is our generation, people of our ilk or whatever, of our age range. I'm guessing everybody here is over the age of 40. I'm assuming, maybe not. I could be off, but people around that age frame, like our position is to try to set up shop for our grandkids to move forward so their grandkids could possibly be in a situation of separation, right? Because this is something generational that I talk about. Like, and I say that because my grandfather's grandfather was born a slave, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if he could look in the future, and if he thought that I could be sitting here right now having this conversation with you online and this, that, and everything else, that people would have thought he was nuts, right? People would have totally thought he was nuts during the plantation if he said this was where black people going to be, you know, in 2025. So like a lot of things could change between now and our grandkids being around, you know. So like well, I just think we could do things to get put in place to where they can possibly pick up the baton and keep it going.
Okay. And so where would you carve out your where would paradise be? You say which separate.
Paradise? What, ain't no place paradise. Where would the nation be? The nation,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
I
say.
would, yeah, my whole thing is reverse migration back to the southeast. That's where that would be my initial plan to do. And again, back to your initial point about being, you know, not picking up arms and going out here fighting everybody. A reverse migration is perfect because once black people start flooding certain places, white people have a tendency of leaving, right? This has just been historical, right? Like white people
Hmm.
are not very anxious to live amongst a whole bunch of black people where they're the minority. You know,
Right.
like so if black people all just start flooding these states that, you know, I feel like we should possibly target, white people going to nature's going to take its course, and white people just going to get up, pack up, and leave because they're not going to try to be too many black people for them. Their property value is dipping, you know. So it's no need to pick up no arms to do anything, you know. Just do everything I talk about is illegal.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm glad to have a sane representative of the Pan African movement up here.
Now everybody in Pan Africanism isn't a separatist either. Some people are
yeah,
not.
and I
I am.
yeah, and I don't
So
mean to be
no.
facetious. I'm just talking a little shit, bro. I don't hate Pan Africans. I actually like that they put some effort. I can tell that they're very passionate. I'm just afraid that we haven't necessarily moved from passion to
But logic,
progress.
logic. Did
Yeah,
you hear
yeah.
what he just said? His repatriation was to
Yeah,
America, to
to
your part of
to the
the
south.
to the South. He's saying that
Hmm.
basically we're American and we just need to, you know, economically own our or control our own part of America. That would be the best benefit to us. Do you have any pushback? Because he's not saying go back to Africa.
Right. And I was getting to that. I was
Go ahead,
edifying
my bad.
first,
Go
right? I
ahead.
want I wanted to remind Psycho that we're actually on the same team before I got there. But yes, so repatriating to the South would still leave us under the jurisdiction of the federal government, right? Who could possibly let's take another extreme example and say that um, let's say if they and this is just for conversation.
Mhm.
I'm trying to throw an adversity at you and see if it still would make sense to do that. Because if I'm under the impression of that's like what the move is, so like how would you counter
That would
counter
be what I would
them,
push
right?
for.
So like
Yeah, that would be what I'd be
no,
pushing
no,
for.
and it makes sense, right? So like, but what if they just some economic thing, right? Let's say they take factories out of that area, and it's not necessarily a great place to live when it's as far as jobs is concerned. Like how would you counter something?
Oh, we definitely gonna have to build up the communities and everything else. I mean, as far as like these places already are lacking jobs, right? Like, so us
Mhm.
going down there, we're gonna have to go down there with the idea that we're gonna have to create jobs, right? Because there's a reason why people was leaving the South to begin with. But some jobs are starting to go back to the South, though, depending on which part you're talking about. Not necessarily the Southeast. So it's gonna be some work that's gonna have to be done there, but yeah, it's opportunities though. It's opportunities,
So you're
especially
yeah
with a
you
lot of these new industries popping up and everything. I really
mm,
wish, it might sound crazy, but it's just reality. I really wish Black people could have got their foot in the door in the marijuana business, especially out in North Carolina, because the cigarette industry, Tobacco Road is about to be shut down. The cigarette industry is going to stink, and it's all going to be taken over by the marijuana industry. And I really wish we could have got our foot in the door earlier with that. But yeah.
round four. Yeah, I get you. So I mean, all of that definitely sounds cool, and it sounds a lot better than what most people say. So I'm not necessarily trying to like deter you or anything like that, but that's your answer is a little atypical. And maybe your answer might be more popular than I think, but I know for a fact that even when I hear a lot of usuals on their show, after you say stuff like that, they'll make sure that they get on there and
Oh, I get pushed back all the
and
time.
and promote the crash out. It's like it just seems to be. I don't know. Maybe it's just a popular talking point in some of the circles, and I might be overemphasizing that. Possible. It's possible.
I mean, like, it's
So
the thing.
so
My bad, go ahead.
yeah, let me ask you a couple more questions. Right. So why would it be necessary to have this? And by the way, your idea reminds me of my idea, which is cultural enclaves. You're basically promoting at a larger scale. You want you instead of cultural enclaves in most cities, you want to basically take over, a large population within the state and make one large culture.
Yes,
That's basically what you're saying.
yes,
Which I like that idea. So that's how you get the money recirculated. Right?
right.
That's the easiest cure for how do we keep the money in the hood, right? That's what that is.
Hmm.
We
So I
talked about in
actually do
Discord.
like that.
Remember? I forget who wrote the book. I forgot who wrote the book. I think it was Charles something. One of the guys
Yeah,
we
that
talking
was
about.
a yeah, but that was a long time ago. There still, but yeah, that was like this one. This is the one that makes the most sense to me, which was the first one.
Oh, right here. Yeah, yeah, but go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
why is it necessary to repatriate to pull that off?
Because it's power in numbers. I see what people can do once they get
Voting.
control. Yeah, voting. Yeah, because I'm definitely pro voting. I'm not one of these people that's anti politics. I got unconventional way of how we should handle the voting, but I'm definitely pro voting. And I definitely basically I want to own Utah. Right, look no further than Utah as an example of what I'm looking for. Right, like the Mormons
The
went there.
Mormons.
Right, the Mormons
Nigga.
went there and they took that whole state over. That like you can't get anything done in Utah unless you go through those Mormons. They have complete control of that state, and I want our own Utah. Actually, I want a few Utahs.
I'm with it. I
Yeah, but
actually, I
their
actually
advantage looks like
verbatim have said this before.
their
Verbatim.
advantage looks like it was when they started though.
Yes,
Like
yes,
they had a unique origin story. Like you know what I mean? It was beginning.
yeah. They got
Like
chased
the
all the way
main
from New
guys
York.
didn't. Yeah, so they already fighting it. They were fighting the United States already.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
it wasn't even military. Like so, the United States wasn't even militarily
but they did go
strong.
to war with those Indians. They
Yeah,
slaughtered those Indians. Yeah,
yeah, for sure, for
yeah,
sure. So that's where you get to like Brigham story, like Brigham Young and all them boy.
yeah.
Like so, that story's a little unique. But go ahead, go ahead. I'll listen to that. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's basically, I mean, I don't want to have to go through all the stuff that they went through or whatever, different era, but yeah, I definitely, that's the type of control of a state that I want though. And I feel like we got the numbers to do it, and like I said, like I said, nature will take its course, and white people will leave. They will leave. Um,
Hey, you, hey, you know too what the other advantage they have though? Religion. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
that's
Like
true. That's
that's
true.
a religion, bro. So
That's
you know
true.
what I mean? So
But that's
so,
also how they ended up in
yeah,
Utah because of the religion.
yeah, I was saying so. That's also that's the benefit that Pan Africans don't have in a sense. You know what I
And
mean?
that's I'm glad you said that because yes, Pan Africanism is not a religion, right? Like I'm a whole atheist over here repping Pan Africanism, right? So Pan Africanism has little to do with theology. It doesn't have to do with a political party per se, because you got some that are Democrats, you got some that are Republicans, you got some think we shouldn't deal with the deal with the political system at all. Like we all over the place when it comes to it politically, right? It's not no one isolated thing, well, that says we should move this way politically. We all have different ideas, and people just, pretty much, put their ideas together and see if we can, work with amongst each other with, lay everything out on the table, create a think tank.
Now, with your idea being a bit off of like mainstream, have you ever considered, or maybe I should just ask you, why does your idea work best under the banner of Pan Africanism? Why does it need that? Why does it need to be considered Pan Africanism?
Well, for me, mainly because I'm a race guy, right? I'm black first, and there's only one black first ideology out there, and that is Pan Africanism. Any other ideology you name me is not going to be black first. It's either going to be Bible first, Quran first, region first, party first, gender first. All these things come first before blackness. The only one that puts blackness first is Pan Africanism. That's it.
Mm, okay, okay. So it resonates with you because of that.
Yes.
That makes sense. That makes that makes sense. Like to me, it's so like if I didn't take the time to actually
Yo. My bad, man. Damn, it's thunderstorming here. The internet went out in the shop, threw everything off. I apologize. But I think I'm going to do a show this evening, man. I appreciate everybody for coming by, swinging through. But we're going to do a show this evening, I promise. We out.